someone that you and I can admire so much, the great Doc Emrick. 2020 here, Doc Emrick, and apparently that is a piece of one of his ties that he wore.
Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Nonsense on Ice, presented by our friends at Upper Deck, where we talk hockey and we talk the hobby. Doug Plagens here with you as always, and we've got an exciting show for you here today. Coming up in just a few moments, we'll be joined by my friend and yours, the television voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets and a card collector just like us. Steve Mears is going to stop by. We'll talk about the hobby, how he enjoys the hobby, how he got into it. We'll talk about what he's seen from the Columbus Blue Jackets, one of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League going into the Olympic break. And we'll highlight some of the great young stars that Columbus has. I know people in the hobby, people around the hockey world have been paying a lot of attention to names like Zach Werenski, like Adam Fantilli. We'll talk about them and more coming up in just a few moments when Steve Mears, the TV voice of the Blue Jackets, stops by. Be great to catch up with him regarding hockey, regarding the hobby. We like to catch up with all of you each week here on Nonsense on Ice. Should mention, if it's your first time listening or watching, if you're on our YouTube audience, we thank you very much for being here. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, send along a thought, a question, concern, an inquiry, whatever you want to bring to the table. At Doug Plagens on the Twitter X platform, at Doug Plagens on Instagram. Always great to hear from you. And tell a friend. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're listening on one of the streaming services, whether you're watching on YouTube, however you're consuming it. We thank you very much for making Nonsense on Ice a part of your listening week. We'll touch on the Olympics here just a little bit. We're in the Olympic break, obviously. The NHL season's on pause, but we've had some great hockey over in Milan. Not going to get too much into the game by game. We're recording this episode a little bit earlier than we normally would. And time sensitivity. We don't want to get too much into the game by game because, again, a lot is changing, a lot's evolving as the days go by over at the Olympics. We'll do a full recap of the Olympics, what we saw on the ice, how it affected the hobby, everything like that coming up in just a couple of weeks. Some new releases on the way from Upper Deck. Of course, we have the conversation with Steve Mears coming up in just a few moments. We'll get to the Hobby 3 Stars. A little bit Olympic-inspired Hobby 3 Stars, at least early goings of the Olympics, but guys who are having nice seasons in the National Hockey League as well, and guys that should be on your hobby radar. We'll also touch on some AHL Hobby 3 Stars, some prospect Hobby 3 Stars, a little bit of a preview to the preview of Upper Deck Series 2, because all three names that I'm going to mention, they're having great seasons in the AHL, but they are also on the Young Guns checklist for Series 2, which is less than a month away at this point, just a few weeks out at this point in time. We'll have a value break spot coming your way. We'll have a value vintage pick. And coming up a little bit later on, we will rip into a few hobby packs of the new O-Pee-Chee hockey, the new 25-26 O-Pee-Chee. You got the marquee rookies in there. It's a great set builders product. We'll talk more about it coming up here in just a few moments, but some hobby packs of O-Pee-Chee to get into before the episode is over with. As far as the Olympics go, just some early observations from the first couple of days. Again, we're recording this on a Friday. So at the time we're recording the episode, everybody in the men's tournament has played. And how about what the Team USA women have been able to do as they've gotten the tournament going as well, making some noise in a big way over at the Olympics. But as far as the men's tournament goes, what we've seen, the NHLers back in the Olympics for the first time since 2014. I think the first few minutes of the first game that I watched, which was the first game of the tournament that Slovakia upset over Finland, I think a couple of shifts in, I'm thinking the level of hockey here, the speed, the tempo, this is off the charts. This is just going to be awesome. Every second of it I've watched, I've felt the exact same. The skill level, the talent level that Canada and the U.S. have brought to the table is just something to see. So as hockey fans, enjoy all of it. Sweden and Finland, those two teams are loaded as well. I know from my perspective, I've been mentioning it every week just because we do have some new listeners, some new viewers coming on board. But my day job, I am the radio play-by-play announcer for the Florida Panthers, my 11th season with the Panthers. So in particular, I've had interest in Team Finland, 3 Panthers playing for Team Finland. There are 2 Panthers playing for Team Latvia. There are 3 Panthers playing for Team Canada. 1 player on Team Sweden. Of course, Matvei Gridin playing for Team USA. So watching all these different games, I have an interest in them as far as just knowing that there's going to be a Panther as an impact player for a lot of these teams. And a pretty good chance, there's a good chance that somebody connected to the Panthers could be bringing a gold medal back to South Florida. But it's just been awesome to see. It's been great to see the NHLers back on the ice at the Olympics. And I know it has generated some movement in the hobby. We've got some names we're going to get to in our Hobby 3 Stars that as soon as the Olympics got going, really, we saw some movement in their cards. So we'll talk about that coming up here in just a few moments. Some releases on the horizon from Upper Deck and a new release this week. We are going to get to the O-Pee-Chee pack shortly. O-Pee-Chee just came out in the last couple of weeks. The retail is probably on its way out very soon. You should be seeing that, I'd imagine, in the big box stores coming up pretty soon, the blaster formats, things like that. But the hobby box has been out for a couple of weeks. First rookie cards for some interesting names. Obviously, it's put more Matthew Schaefer cards onto the market, so a lot of buzz there. All the big rookies that you'd want to see are in the marquee rookies set in O-Pee-Chee, so certainly worth looking at that. SP Game Used, autographs of all the big rookies. That just came out. This is the first episode of Nonsense on Ice since the release of SP Game Used. The Four Nations relics coming out of that product have just been awesome. I've seen a number of those get pulled, so those have been really cool to see. But again, like I said, the big rookies are all represented as far as the autographs are concerned. Tons to look for in SP Game Used. A release with some good history, a couple of decades behind it. So certainly worth checking that out. Other releases on the horizon, mentioned SP Game Used. You've got Upper Deck Golf coming out on the 18th. I noted it on last week's episode, but Upper Deck Golf, I know we're a hockey podcast here, a hockey hobby podcast, but there's a lot of crossover between the hockey and golf worlds. Fun product there. Upper Deck Golf comes out on the 18th. So the next time we talk to you on Nonsense on Ice, we will have an episode, or we will have the release of Upper Deck Golf having taken place. The 18th, we also have the release of Fleer Ultra Hockey. That's going to be in a hobby format as well as e-pack. You can check it out there. A lot of cool variants in the product. You got the rookie, all the rookies are in it too. It's going to be a fun one with some nostalgia feel to it. Just the Fleer Ultra name takes me back. And also on the horizon, we've got the rookie box sets on March 4th. We've got Upper Deck Series 2 on March 4th. I've been saying I got to pre-order my hobby box of Series 2. Can't wait to rip that. Chase Matthew Schaefer. But as we've mentioned before, a couple episodes back, and as we've mentioned, we will mention when we do our preview episode, there are a lot of names to look for on that Young Guns checklist in addition to just Matthew Schaefer. So we'll talk more about that coming up in just a few minutes when we get to our AHL Hobby 3 Stars. Upper Deck SP, shouldn't forget to mention this one. Upper Deck SP, fun product, also out on the 25th of February. Just got the checklist for that. You got the numbered Rookie Authentics cards that are in SP. In the past, what's been really cool about SP is you get the retail format with the blasters where you get a blue Rookie Authentics card, I believe, in each pack. So when those blasters come out, there's some good depth to the product and some good cards to chase there, especially in a deep rookie class like this. You have a good opportunity to hit something pretty cool out of the retail formats as well. So those are the releases we've got. Let's get to the conversation here with Steve Mears. After that, we will get to the Hobby 3 Stars, NHL version, Olympic inspired. We'll get to the AHL, the Prospect Hobby 3 Stars as well. We'll rip some O-Pee-Chee, value break spot, value vintage pick. That's all to come. But let's get into our conversation. Great guest this week, TV voice of the Blue Jackets, Steve Mears, kind enough to stop by here on Nonsense on Ice. Well, folks, excited for this one here on Nonsense on Ice, presented by our friends at Upper Deck today, where we always talk hockey and we talk the hobby. Kind enough to stop by here today, one of my friends in the business, my friend and yours, the television voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Steve Mears, here with us, longtime hockey broadcast professional. Steve, welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Great to be chatting with you here during the Olympic break, Doug. Always good to chat and talk hockey, cards, two of my favorite subjects. if we get into food, you'll have all three checked off the list. So, and I guess I should throw my son in there too. That's my other favorite talking point here. So I don't want to forget about him. So that's my top four right there. We can touch on all of them.
All great subjects, and I challenge you by the end of this conversation to find a way to interweave all of them together. So maybe we'll find a way to do that.
Very easy, actually. Very easy.
We're excited. We'll get into it organically then. But first, here we are in the Olympic break. You just mentioned it there. The NHL season on a bit of a pause here right now while everybody is over either in Milan playing for their countries, or in the case of a lot of guys, getting some time off. In the case of us, a chance to catch our breath, guys that follow the teams as broadcasters day to day. But you see the Columbus Blue Jackets every day. Before we get into your cardboard journey, before we get into talking too much of the hobby here, that's a team that's gotten a lot of attention in the hobby with some of their young players, the team that's gotten a lot of attention in the hockey world, and maybe one of those teams that would have liked to just keep pushing forward. This break came at an interesting time. They were on a roll. I guess looking at that, what led to this hot streak for Columbus here, in addition to just the coaching change being the obvious thing that got the headlines?
Yeah, it's more than just the coaching change. There is the usual bump that you get when you make a coaching change. We've seen that time and time again, especially in the NHL, but this is something more. I think finally this team is reaching its potential under Rick Bowness, having just one loss since they made the coaching change on January 12th. Hottest team in the NHL going into the Olympic break. And we were kind of tossing that around. Is this the worst time possible for a break? And I do think when you add it all up and you look at the bumps and bruises that every team's dealing with and the schedule that is looming in the month of March, again, every team will be dealing with it. And knowing some of the injuries and how many players are not playing at 100%, I do think it is best to recharge. And I don't think they're going to have too much difficulty in capturing that momentum once again because of the way that they're playing and particularly the way they're defending. And this is the Blue Jackets team that we expected going into the season. They just were not able to reach that potential. And I think defensively, that's what Rick Bowness said right away when he took over his first press conference on January 13th. He looks at the goals against, the shots against, the high danger chances against, the penalty kill, all those defensive categories, and they were deficient in all of them. And that was the thing that had to be fixed. And we know if you want to make the playoffs, you have to be good defensively. So he's been able to correct some of that. Still some work to be done, but it's a real exciting time for a Blue Jacket fan and for a broadcaster like myself to watch this team finally reaching their potential.
Yeah, tightening things up defensively, but that hasn't hindered the offensive production of a lot of the guys, and we're going to get to talking a little bit about that here in just a few moments. Steve Mears, TV voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets, kind enough to join us here on Nonsense on Ice. Well, first, let's just take it all the way back. Your life in the hobby. Do you remember your first pack of cards? Do you remember where it began? What started it for you? And how do you collect today, I guess, if we're going to open it up to a potentially long-winded response? But that we have time for it here. We absolutely have time for
sure. It. Yeah, we do. I don't remember the first pack. That's a good question. The very first pack. I don't even really remember the first couple of cards, but I do have an all-time favorite card. And not just this famous one, but this one specifically. And I remember opening the pack, and everyone will recognize it.
Yep.
Right there. That's 89 Upper Deck, Ken Griffey Jr., one of the most famous cards of all time. And this one in particular, this is so 90s. An Italian restaurant in Wildwood, New Jersey. Very good restaurant. In the lobby of the restaurant, back in the early 90s, sold sports memorabilia and sports cards. They had packs, they had autographed memorabilia. This was so early 90s Jersey Shore. And 89 Upper Deck, so this would have been maybe 92. And these packs were pretty expensive, especially for a young kid. And you knew there was the Griffey in there. And I remember buying a few packs prior to the dinner, sitting down at this restaurant with my family, opening up and seeing the one on the back. And I knew Griffey was number one. And this is the exact card. I've had it my entire life. I will pass it on to my son Carter, who's 2 years old. And the thrill of opening that foil from 89 Upper Deck and seeing that number one, and then seeing one of my favorite players of all time, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, so unbelievably exciting back then. And I still get chills looking at it right now. That's my favorite card of all time. I actually submitted it to be graded, but there's a flaw at the top. It wasn't me because I put it right away in a case. It's been barely touched for 30 plus years. but it's like kind of like the top edge is kind of chewed up a little bit. Obviously something with the factory cut, so it doesn't really matter. I was doing that for posterity, but I'm just happy to still have it. And my brothers remember it, my parents, they remember it, and my reaction when I opened that pack at that dinner table and got Ken Griffey Jr.
That's the card that has stood the test of time, and what foresight from Upper Deck to make that number one in the first set back in 1989, and really a revolutionary card in the hobby. And I think you could talk to, and I know this is a hockey card podcast, but I bet you 9 out of 10 folks that you talk to that I would say are from our collecting era or what were our formative years in the hobby, that is the card. And I would tell you the exact same thing. That Ken Griffey Jr. 1989 Upper Deck card number one. So I guess just looking at that one, that's what started it all. How do you collect today? Because I know I've talked to you time and time again about some of the big singles that you're looking for. Sometimes it's going back and finding classics that maybe were big cards to you when you were younger. I know you'd mentioned you just picked up a nice Zach Werenski rookie because obviously you get a chance to see him play every single day. So how do you collect now?
Yeah, I'm very similar to a lot of people who collected in childhood. And then what got me back into it was the pandemic. We've heard that story time and time again, where we had time on our hands, maybe a little extra money, nothing to do. Hockey season was paused. And so I started getting on eBay and starting to look at some of the cards that I always dreamed of having. And I was like, oh, I can afford this now. So the first one that I went after was my Mario rookie, the famous O-Pee-Chee rookie. And I was able to get that pre-pandemic, and now it's worth a lot more. I'm glad I bought it when I did. And a couple other Wayne Gretzky cards. Again, it just goes back to childhood and all your heroes growing up. And I do like the vintage. And nowadays, like, I haven't really gotten into a lot of the current players. I have a couple of Shohei Ohtani cards. I do still love opening packs. That brings me back to childhood, and I have my son do it sometimes with me. I do like the vintage a lot. I love vintage baseball. Just to see it, it's a piece of history. I have a couple of Jackie Robinson cards, seeing Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, even going back hockey-wise, and I pulled this one from the collection. I mean, this is Jean Béliveau. This is 1963, and the reverence that people have for Jean Béliveau in the game of hockey, to own something like this and to think of the hands that this has passed through and the journey that this card has been on all the way into the slab here, going back to 1963, the Parkhurst Jean Béliveau, for a player I never got a chance to see, but to know the reverence and the respect that everybody in the game of hockey has for Jean Béliveau, among others like Maurice Richard and Red Kelly and Gordie Howe and all the old-time players. I love that bit of nostalgia and just owning a piece of history of the game of hockey. So, there's that. I do have the Werenski I told you that I picked up. There's Zach. Unbelievably affordable for a guy. This was last summer, and we were here in Columbus saying there's no way he could be better than he was last year. He is better than he was last year and might win the Norris Trophy this season on his way to maybe a 30-goal season. So to get the Werenski Young Guns, I just kind of realized I was like, I don't really have any of the Blue Jacket guys, and I do try to collect some of the players that I've covered in my career. I have a Sidney Crosby rookie, but I like that aspect, and who knows? You never know where it's going to take you, right? Maybe I'll get into some other football series or an athlete or something like that. But as of right now, it's like mostly going back to childhood and players that I've covered in my broadcasting career.
Well, there are a lot of different directions I want to go off of what you just said, because it sounds like the nostalgia fuels a lot of it for you. Also, something that I tell people all the time, what makes this hobby so great is you can take it any direction you want. You can go any lane you want. And it doesn't matter if you enter the hobby with $10 or $10,000, there's a way for you to have fun with it. So there are a few different directions I want to go, but you mentioned Zach Werenski right there, and just taking it to his game right now. You see him play every single day. I've spent a good amount of time on this show talking about him specifically from a hockey standpoint and from a hobby standpoint as well, because I think that you've got Cale Makar, you've got Quinn Hughes. Zach Werenski's the only other defenseman that I would put in that echelon as far as he has that bring you out of your seat ability. He's obviously playing for Team USA at the Olympics. I hope we don't jinx him, but I think this is his year to win the Norris Trophy. What's impressed you the most about seeing Zach play every single day?
I think the fact that he just touches so many facets of the game. It's not just about the points. I know that for the Norris voting, a lot of times people look immediately to who led the league in points by defensemen, and that's going to be the winner. Cale Makar has led the league in points by defensemen, and he obviously does so many more things and affects the game in so many ways as well, and has been deserving of his Norris trophies. But Zach Werenski, it's just the calm demeanor that he has in chaos, the ability to slow the game down, the workload that he plays with. Last year played almost 27 minutes on average to lead the NHL through 81 games that he played out of 82, and that was the highest ice time, I think, in 7 years by any player in the NHL at the end of a season. And now this year they're trying to cut his minutes down a little bit, but he's still going to be right up there among the ice time leaders in the league. So I think it's all those factors, and he's just a classy individual. He reminds me a lot of Sidney Crosby. I spent a lot of time with Sid working in Pittsburgh, and I'm talking from an off-ice perspective and a leadership perspective and how he sees everything and is helpful and charitable and respectful. And Zach reminds you of Sidney Crosby. That's the best compliment that I can give him. And the fact that he doesn't cheat the game. He gets his points. He's a threat offensively. He's up on the attack all the time. But then you look, he's the first guy back. He doesn't cheat the game. It's not like he's this riverboat gambler out there who's just looking for points, and then you take the good with the bad, and then, of course, you're going to get burned a couple times. He's always back and really solid defensively. So I think all of those aspects, he's been an impressive player to watch up close for my 2 years here in Columbus covering the Blue Jackets. I saw him back at the World Juniors in 2015 with Team USA. I was lucky enough to watch him at that early stage. But now to see him in his prime and the impact that he has every single night, he's unbelievably consistent. That's why it's so much fun to cover this team. One of the many reasons is watching Zach on a nightly basis.
I always say he is living proof that you can bleed Michigan blue and gold and still make a lot of friends in Columbus, Ohio, and be very well liked in Columbus, Ohio, because Zach Werenski is a special player. We've talked about it all the time. You showed it right there, Steve. That 16-17 Upper Deck Young Guns rookie card. The fact that you can still pick up raw copies of that card for under $20 is pretty amazing. And you've got the PSA 10 right there for our YouTube audience, which is a beautiful card and going to be a classic for one of the star players of this era.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to my son, too. Like, that's for the personal collection, and someday I would like to pass that card along. And it doesn't really matter the value. I just want to show him some of the players that I covered in my career. And that's the ones that stand out are the Sidney Crosbys, Evgeny Malkins, Zach Werenski, and also my childhood heroes, going back to the vintage and leading back to what you talked about there, Mario, Gretzky, Ken Griffey Jr., Nolan Ryan, Frank Thomas. So you can tell I was especially big into hockey and baseball. Football and basketball as well. I got a bunch of those from childhood, but mostly baseball and especially hockey and all the legendary players. I would love to sit down with my son one day and show him cards of Joe Sakic and Teemu Selanne and Patrick Waugh, Brian Leach, Mark Messier, all of these players. Here's another guy right here, Larry Murphy. I love this card so much. Larry, just growing up in Pittsburgh, was such an underrated player for me on those Penguin teams that won the Stanley Cup in 91 and 92. He would go on to win 2 more cups in Detroit. But this card with the purple and gold LA Kings and this O-Pee-Chee 81 with one of the most underrated players in the history of the NHL. Just look at the numbers and then the 4 cups. Larry Murphy, now he's been in our business for a while. I've gotten to know him as a broadcaster in Detroit, and it's so cool. He was probably my favorite defenseman when I was growing up, with Mario Lemieux being my favorite player overall.
And an O-Pee-Chee PSA 10 from 81-82. That is not an easy find. How did you stumble into that one?
That was another pre-pandemic purchase. I'm glad I have that one. It was I don't remember what I paid for it, but it was very low because it was about 2019, and it's in unbelievable condition as you would expect. But I just love the old timey everything, the gloves, the stick, and then especially the old time Kings colors. What do they call it? Forum blue, even though it's purple, really. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love reading the back of it. Any given day, I'll just go and take a look at what's written about him. And I absolutely love that card. So that's another one that will never leave my collection. And someday I'll tell a little Carter about this defenseman who was great patrol on the blue line for so many different teams, but especially for Pittsburgh and Detroit when he won those 4 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, he had a great career, and that card's a classic, and I love the design. Those are always awesome ones. And I guess just looking at this from a couple of different angles here, you've mentioned so many different topics and different tentacles I'd like to get to coming off what you said. If somebody came up to you and said, hey, this whole card thing, it's picked up a lot of steam lately. I know you've got some of them. You've been into it. What would you tell somebody? Where do you begin? If somebody came up to you and asked, where do I start with all this? Where would you send them?
Yeah, if you were brand new, I would just say follow the things that you're most passionate about. If you have a favorite athlete, if you have a card that just looks cool, if there's a good story behind it, and I have a couple here that I have to share about stories, and that's another thing. I like the quirkiness, and I love the stories that go behind it. I might as well just pull it up here, and hockey card enthusiasts will know this one. However, I just found out about it last summer. So this is the beauty of the hobby to me, that there's such a story behind this particular card, whatever it is, 94 Pinnacle.
You just tweeted this one.
Sylvain Turgeon, 94 Pinnacle. I can't believe I never heard about this because this was my vintage. I mean, like, I have a ton of these cards in my childhood bedroom. And Sylvain Turgeon, so you might think it's kind of a nondescript name, although he had a very good career at the time here playing for the Ottawa Senators. And the amazing thing I found out, for those who don't know, last summer, the little boy watching there in Buffalo at the glass is the one and only Patrick Kane with his father at the game, frozen forever in hockey card form. And I was blown away by that. First of all, like, how did I never hear about this? I have to get this card. And then second of all, like, think of the odds of this happening, that they used this photo. Patrick is at the game, and then he goes on to do the great things that he does in his Hall of Fame career. Just recently became the all-time leader in points by an American player. I was absolutely floored by that. And the person who told me about this card was Sylvain Turgeon's brother, Pierre Turgeon, the great Pierre Turgeon. I don't know, somehow we were chatting about, and it got to hockey cards somehow. And he goes, can you believe, jokingly, he said this, my brother, Sylvain, I had a Hall of Fame career. I scored 500 goals. My brother has a card that is worth more than mine, any of mine, because Patrick Kane, as a 6-year-old boy or whatever he was, is in the background. So Sylvain Turgeon has a card that is more valuable than any of Pierre Turgeon's cards. So he was kind of laughing about that. But I immediately looked it up. I was like, I have to have this thing. And I love telling that story because I think it's so unfathomable that here you are with this young Patrick Kane who's destined to do great things. And it makes you think about the next time we're at a hockey rink, like, who's there? Who's listening to our broadcast? What kid is sitting by the glass and is on his way to be in the next Patrick Kane? Or maybe it's a young girl who's on her way to play in the PWHL or play in the Olympics like we're watching right now. That's the beauty of the sport. And I think that's one example of the beauty of the hobby.
Yeah, that's a classic card. It's obviously become kind of a mythical card in the hobby because Patrick Kane's in it. And getting back to what you said, you never know who's going to be on hand at games. When the Panthers went to Finland in 2018, Anton Lundell was in the crowd as a fan watching that night, hoping to one day be on that ice. And then during the 24-25 season, the Panthers went back to Finland to play a couple of games. And what do you know? There was Anton Lundell in the lineup for the Panthers during that trip. So you just never know how those things are all going to tie together. But that is a classic card, and that's an awesome one. Do you have any other? I know you mentioned you had some cards with some backstories to them. Did you have any other?
Yeah, like I said, I like the unique. I like the unique and the quirky. This one, I collect a lot of Wayne Gretzky, like a lot of hockey card collectors do. And I got this one off eBay, very inexpensive. But this is a Nielsen Chocolate, the vintage chocolate company in Canada. And to me and my knowledge, this is the only card that at least I have seen that has Wayne wearing the jersey of the Indianapolis Racers of the old WHA. For those who don't know, Wayne began as a professional in hockey in Indianapolis, Indiana. He played for the Racers of that old WHA, and it was only 8 games, and then from there he'd go on to Edmonton and become the great one. with one season in the WHA, and then they merged, and the Edmonton Oilers entered the National Hockey League. But I love this card because it looks like he's wearing bell bottoms there in the 70s. And of course, he's pencil thin. You know, he was, how much, weighed $150 maybe back then. But like they said, it was like trying to catch a feather if you tried to hit him. But to wear that, to see him wearing that jersey, the old gloves that go up to almost his elbows, and the Indianapolis Racers logo, I thought that was just so unique, and I wanted to pick that up. I guess it was some type of an insert in Nielsen's chocolate back then in the 70s, but I just thought it was really cool. So that would be one thing that really stands out, just because it's Wayne, and it's another piece of history that you see him, and you don't see much of it, but it's Wayne wearing the Indianapolis Racers.
Few more here with you. You watch the Blue Jackets play every day, and during 23-24, when the 23-24 cards were out, everybody was chasing Connor Bedard. And you had people coming in from other segments of the hobby, ripping tons of 23-24 product, trying to get the Connor Bedard. And I've mentioned on this show a lot since then that you might want to go back and all that stuff you ripped, especially if you weren't a hockey diehard at the time and you were just hunting Bedard, because there are some other names to look for in there. Leo Carlsson's in there. Dustin Wolf is in there. Matthew Nyes is in there. A guy you get to see play every day, Adam Fantilli, is also in there. And in a normal year, Bedard, Carlsson, Fantilli, any of these guys could have been number one draft picks in a normal year. Adam had the 31-goal season last year. Easy to forget how young he still is. What can you say about Adam Fantilli and what you've seen from his games that's growing along? Because he's one of the young guys that, again, isn't only part of a very deep young talent pool in the league, but he's one of those young guys that a lot of people in the hobby are following as well.
Yeah, I think any Fantilli card would be a worthwhile investment or addition to your collection. Get a chance to see him up close, watch him really take off last year in his second NHL season and score those 31 goals like you talked about. Now this season, the goals haven't quite been there, but I think everybody's hoping that here in the second half, post-Olympic break, he recharges and he's able to take off again like he did. His production really soared in the second half of last season. So if you want to try to forecast the potential investment, I would say Adam Fantilli is a pretty good bet. And even if the goals aren't there, he's working on all the other aspects to be a well-rounded center in the NHL and being good defensively. He's been really trending in the right direction in the face-off circle, using his line mates and teammates better on the ice. That overall vision, slowing the game down, which you have to do. Eventually it happens, but it takes time for a young player, even one as supremely talented as Adam Fantilli. So, I've always been impressed by him. He has so many attributes. He's got the vision. He's got the size. He's not afraid to mix it up. He'll throw some pretty big hits, and he's fast and has some great hands. And as we saw last year, can score goals. So I see why the Blue Jackets were thrilled. Nothing against Leo Carlsson, who's also going to be a great player, already is. But the Blue Jackets were thrilled when it was going to be Adam Fantilli, who clearly went third overall in that draft after Bedard and Carlsson. I think everybody happy with their selections there in the first three, especially the Blue Jackets getting Adam Fantilli. Another Wolverine, another Michigan guy. We have several of them. Kent Johnson would be another one. And there's so much young talent on this Jackets team. It makes it a fun team to watch just because they have the mix of the young talent and they have these established veterans like Charlie Coyle and Werenski and Matthew Olivier and Boone Jenner. And I think it's that combination that has really allowed them to thrive and play so well under Rick Bowness.
And one other individual to ask you about, too, and I don't get to see the Blue Jackets play as much as you do, but a guy who, whenever I see Columbus play, kind of jumps off the TV screen at me. He's just exciting. I find Kirill Marchenko pretty exciting to watch. It seems like he can do some things that not everybody else can do with the puck on his stick. And maybe a guy that nationally does fly under the radar, and certainly in the hobby does fly under the radar. But do you share that same kind of sentiment? He kind of brings you out of your seat sometimes, it feels like. He's an exciting player.
He does. And here's another guy who scored 30 goals last year. Not as high of a draft choice. He was a second-round pick. And I do think he has that dynamic quality where he can change a game on one shift pretty much by himself. And there's another guy who's just getting into his prime. All these players that I've mentioned, part of the young core of the Blue Jackets, Denton Mateychuk, Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Adam Fantilli, Kirill Marchenko. They're just getting there. Fantilli, 21. Mateychuk, 21. Cole Sillinger's been in the league for 5 years, and he's 23. So it's, or Johnson's 23. Cole's 22, I think. So it's really, the future is so bright for this team. They have other prospects that are on the horizon, but the future is so bright. But the team is in win now mode. I mean, after coming so close last year, the goal was pretty much playoffs or bust. And when it didn't really start the way they wanted to, thus you start to have questions about coaching and the way that they're playing, and have to make some trades and make some moves, which they've done. So, yeah, I think the future's really bright, but the goal here is to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's been a while here in Columbus, and now we're seeing the team that they had hoped for at the beginning of the year. And some of the offseason acquisition, Isaac Lundestrom, Miles Wood, Charlie Coyle, they've been terrific. They re-signed Provorov and Fabro, and they've had a nice impact on the blue line too. And the goaltending's been solid. So I think there's a lot of potential here for the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's not going to be easy, though, as we know, in the Eastern Conference. Those head-to-head games, those 3-4 point games that you see on any given night, it's really going to be a grind, especially in March for all the teams in the league. The Blue Jackets have 17 games in March, so it's going to be a grind, but they're just hoping to continue trending in the same direction that they've been trending in now for the last month.
Two more before we let you get going here. We could go all day on a lot of this stuff, but the Blue Jackets have their sights set on the Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you have your sights set on hobby-wise? I know you mentioned there might be a Steve Mears shopping list as we look ahead to the next several months. What are you targeting for him?
It's a bucket list, and don't tell my wife. Hopefully she doesn't tune in, because already these are it's just so much fun. These are good investments. I mean, like as I said, the Nario rookie and the Larry Murphy rookie there pre-pandemic. I mean, the value obviously has gone up. I wish I had purchased the Wayne Gretzky rookie I told you about that was also pre-pandemic. I was at the Stanley Cup final. I was in Boston. And I think it was a game day, and I was in the hotel. I saw it on eBay. It was like a Gretzky 8 for maybe it was like 4,000 or some, maybe even less. And now it's 5 figures for sure. And I didn't take the plunge. I had to get going. I was in a rush to get out of there, and I regret that one. But the Gretzky rookie for sure is on the bucket list. I think a Michael Jordan rookie, same bucket list for just about every collector. Those famous cards. I don't think I've ever owned an actual Mickey Mantle card. So that's going to have to check that off the list. Doesn't have to be anything super fancy. Doesn't have to be the 52 tops, but just some Mantle of some kind would be nice. But yeah, buying the occasional box here and there, and just for the fun of opening and seeing what you get. And I know there's some great hockey collections out there, or some sets that are amazing. Like what they're doing now with artifacts and autographs. Like I haven't totally plunged into that, the modern stuff. I say cards, it's like music for me. I keep an eye on the new stuff. I like the new stuff, but I'm all about the vintage. I like the old school. I like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like that's how I am with music. That's how I am with cards. So I'm keeping an eye on certain things like that. Not really chasing the up-and-coming players, but if one stumbles on my lap, certainly if it's Macklin Celebrini or Connor Bedard or the latest basketball or football star, maybe some baseball high draft choices. I know there's some really good ones on the horizon. I'll definitely have to take a look at some of those younger players. But speaking of the artifacts, I have to share this one with you. I saw this one also on eBay, and I was so laughing because I know he would laugh at it. But the artifact cards, which of course I didn't have when I was a kid, it's pretty cool. You own a piece of an actual game or a jersey or a literal piece of history. Someone that you and I can admire so much, the great Doc Emrick.
Wow.
2020 here, Doc Emrick, and apparently that is a piece of one of his ties that he wore. And I saw this on eBay. I was like, because I'm such a big Doc fan. He's a big part of my life, and I've idolized him for the longest time, fellow Bowling Green Falcon. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It's a piece of his tie that he wore. So I have to share this with him someday. That I'm sure he doesn't even maybe knows that it exists. But I think it's so funny. And as a Doc Emrick fan, lifelong fan, one of the reasons I got into this whole business. To have that in the collection, I think that's another one that tells a story, and I have a ton of Doc stories, and he's been so helpful to me over the years, and certainly one of my broadcasting idols. So to own that Doc Emrick vintage card there, artifact card, is really an honor.
Well, maybe we can get our friends at Upper Deck to jump on a game used tie set. They could make the Doug Plagens one. They could make the Steve Mears one. They could do a dual broadcaster versus broadcaster tie relic set.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know
we would be interested.
I know there are many legendary announcers who are way above the totem pole than you or I, but hey, we've been going with Upper Deck or Tops. They're all over a lot longer than a lot of other announcers have. I know that for sure. So just a huge part of our lives, and just the fandom of being a sports fan, and collecting your idols, and trading with friends, going to card shows, and getting autographs, meeting some great athletes. The first time I met Phil Bourque, who I used to work with in Pittsburgh, was at a card show. He was signing autographs in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. I had a chance to meet Gordie Howe. I never got to meet him, unfortunately, and that was at a card show one time. I think the cost was like $15 or $20, which might as well have been $1 million for me back then. And I didn't really know who Gordie Howe was as a kid, but I regret that one. But like going to the card shows, so much fun back in the day. And even today, there's some real good ones here in the Columbus area. And I love attending, walking around. A couple times I brought my son, and he's not old enough. He's only 2.5, so he's not quite old enough to really get into it yet. But just to meet nice people who are into the hobby, and chat about the latest trends, and see some cool things and some different pieces of memorabilia, or whether it's cards or autograph stuff. It is cool. It's been a fun part of my life, going back to childhood and now even as an adult. So I like your idea. Maybe we can get our favorite companies in on that.
No, that's if you or I ended up with a game used tie card, I think that would be the top of the professional mountain. I think at that point in time. Steve Mears, one more for you. We're going to tie it together as two. First one, you can give us the short synopsis version, because I think there are a lot of people out there that are always interested in this kind of thing. But where did the broadcasting journey begin? Tell us a little bit about how it got started, and the rest of the season. What's a restaurant on the road that you might be excited to try or check out again? Because I know we had to tie it back to food somehow.
Yes. Well, we are coming to Florida, so I'll definitely give you one there for Fort Lauderdale. I think that's going to be at the beginning of February. And I'm looking forward to any trip to Florida, but especially for a game against the Panthers. But I'm looking forward to all kinds of things with this upcoming season, and excited for what's ahead with the road trips that we have. Like I said, the very busy month of March with 17 games. We had one actually was postponed in February due to the snowstorm. We have a makeup game, so we have a lot of games coming up in February. But I might as well go right into Fort Lauderdale. Daniel's Steakhouse. Have you been there?
I've driven by it. I've actually never been, but I've driven by it.
It's very nondescript. There isn't much signage or anything. Unbelievable steakhouse. So that is definitely going to be on my list for on the food tour for our trip to Fort Lauderdale. And I'm excited to head down there. Really, it's a unique steakhouse. It's not like the typical. There are a lot of really good ones, but to me, it's unique, and it's Florida themed. Like, I want unique, and I want something that's local, right? If I go to Philly, I want a cheesesteak. And it doesn't have to be fancy for the food tour, but I just want to have something that's kind of local. And there are some nice Florida-themed meals there in Daniel's Steakhouse. So that's going to be my destination for the Florida road trip. And what else what was the first part of the question?
Where did your broadcasting journey begin? Tell the folks out there how you got that first foot in the door.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of the names that I've mentioned here. It was like watching Mario and like here's Larry Murphy again, watching a guy that came, Jaromir Jagr growing up in Pittsburgh. And then it were like the perfect confluence of events where you had the Penguins winning Stanley Cups. They had the greatest player in Mario Lemieux. And then they had the greatest broadcaster and someone you got to meet as well, the late Mike Lang, who was my idol. Doc is right up there too. At a later stage in life, I got to know Doc and watch him closely. And I did watch him on NHL on Fox and ABC and eventually on NBC. But yeah, it was just getting into wanting to be around hockey, everything around it, whatever it was. It wasn't even like that much about sports. I've done other sports, but I love hockey. I just wanted to get in around the NHL. And this was a really good avenue to get in and go to games and have a good time, just kind of bringing the stories to life and bringing it to the audience, whether it was radio or television. So, started doing that, knew I wanted to do that since age 10, went to Bowling Green, which is a great broadcasting school. As I mentioned, Doc Emrick went there. And just like you did, and just like a lot of us, you have a path, almost somewhat like a player. You work your way up from the minor leagues, college, then the minor leagues, and you ride the buses, you do all those different jobs, wearing many hats, and then you get a break along the way, and you end up working in the NHL, which is all I ever wanted. Didn't matter where it was lucky enough to spend a bunch of years doing games for my hometown team, but now here in Columbus, couldn't be happier. It's kind of like come full circle, because starting in Bowling Green, where I broadcast, the first time I was on the radio, first time I did a hockey game on a radio station was at BG here in Ohio. And now to be working in Ohio and amongst the wonderful Ohio people and Blue Jackets fans. And I always had an eye on the Jackets, because when I was a junior at Bowling Green, that was the Jackets' inaugural season. That's when they entered the NHL. So it's really come full circle. Used to drive down to Jackets games all the time when I was in college, and now to call games and follow this team, this amazing fan base. Really, really honored and blessed, and hopefully it'll be a playoff year, and the team is on the rise. And no greater example in the Florida Panthers, the team that you cover. I remember going to some of the lean years in Florida, just like the Jackets have had many lean years, and now to see the Panthers, just their rise as this elite team in the NHL. I think the Blue Jackets can do something similar with the pieces that they have here. So I think that's a perfect example, and it's just an honor. Like, I know you feel the same way. It's an honor to get in for free, and it's an honor just to broadcast in the NHL. I just wanted to do one game, and now I've been doing it now for a number of years. So very fortunate.
He's Steve Mears, and we're fortunate. We're honored to have you here on Nonsense on Ice, and we look forward to having you on again sometime down the road. The folks can find you on the Twitter X platform, correct, at Mearsy NHL. I believe that is the handle, correct?
You got it.
Right? You can find him at Mearsy NHL on the Twitter X platform. But again, one of the great announcers in our sport, and honored to have him here on the show, my friend and yours, Steve Mears, and he likes the cardboard just like the rest of us. Thank you very much, sir, for being here.
Yeah, no problem. We'll have to do it again, and we'll have to update each other on what the latest cards are, what we're pursuing. And there's always something new, something different. You stumble on some things, might get a bargain here and there. I'm always looking on eBay. I have a couple of card shops. If anybody ever goes to Columbus or a Blue Jackets game, there's a tremendous card shop, Midwest Sports Cards, right next to Nationwide Arena. And I got a few others on the road that I like to stop in and just see what's going on. And it's funny what you can stumble on. The possibilities, as you said, the possibilities are endless in this hobby. So it's been a fun part of my life and yours.
Something truly out there for everybody. And I have that card shop, Midwest Sports Cards, on my to-do list when we go up to Columbus, I believe, in March. So Steve Mears, incredibly generous with your time. We thank you very much today, and we can't wait to have you on again. Thanks again for stopping by.
It was a blast. Thanks for having me.
So great conversation there with Steve Mears, the television voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And again, just hearing so many different ways to collect, and the so many different ways that he's enjoyed the hobby, and going back and finding the classics. And I find myself doing a lot of the same thing, and then collecting players that he's had the chance to be around and cover. I've done a lot of the same thing that he's done. I know I've mentioned before, a lot of the times the way I sample a new product is by grabbing the Panthers in a break. That's one way that I always sample new products. But the way he's gone about picking up a Zach Werenski rookie, having a nice Zach Werenski rookie, I've done the same thing, picking up a cool Alexander Barkov rookie autograph, or a cool Matthew Tkachuk rookie card. So it's cool to see that that's another way that he's gone about enjoying the hobby, and talking about how he looks forward to enjoying it down the road with his son Carter. And then also mentioning he threw out the name Mike Lang, and I love anytime people mention Mike Lang, and I know that he meant a lot to Steve and his career too. But Mike Lang, longtime broadcaster for the Pittsburgh Penguins. My first season with the Florida Panthers, and he's known for his iconic calls and catchphrases. And you go back and watch some of those old Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr highlights from the 90s, you're going to hear a lot of Mike Lang and a lot of just iconic catchphrases that came along with it. But I think it was my first season with the Panthers. So during the 15-16 season, we were in Pittsburgh, and I was in the booth, and I had never met Mike Lang. He was a legend at this point. He walked into the booth, introduced himself, said hello. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Have a good career." And I've always just a nice man. And I was, again, love that I had a chance to get to know him, and had a cool story with Mike Lang. Got to listen to him and enjoy so many of his calls, and just a great guy. Meant so much to hockey in Pittsburgh, and so much to hockey broadcasting. And that was one of those little moments from my first go around in the National Hockey League as a broadcaster that just meant a lot to me, that Mike Lang stopped in, introduced himself, and wished me all the best as I was getting going in my first season in the NHL. So you can't talk about Penguins hockey without talking about the great Mike Lang. Folks, you can't talk about hockey these days. Again, big thanks to Steve Mears for stopping by. Again, one of the great broadcasters in our sport today, and he likes the cardboard just like the rest of us. So I can't wait to talk to him again down the road about it. And cool to hear that he's got some big-time items on his shopping list too. Folks, Hobby 3 stars for this week. We've got a few names to get into. They are a bit Olympic-inspired, some guys who had big starts to the men's ice hockey tournament, but guys that we should be paying attention to in the National Hockey League, and that we should be paying attention to as far as their hobby markets are concerned. Folks, Juraj Slafkovsky started the Olympics, game one of the Olympics. He had a big-time performance. He had a 3-point game against Finland to kick off the tournament, helped propel Slovakia to an upset win to start the tournament. Top pick back in 2022. He has just been continuing to evolve for the Montreal Canadiens, and a star in the making, no doubt about it. The big power forward has 21 goals and 45 points in 57 games for a very offensively gifted Montreal team this season. His 21 goals this season, already a career high. And this is a guy that, again, the top pick in 2022, a very young player, 6'3", 225. He's got the size, the skill. He is tough to deal with, and he is only going to get stronger as time goes on. His 22-23 Upper Deck Young Guns rookie card number 451. Now you look at the trajectory of this card. Early December, there were PSA 10 sales, $159 to $217. Since February 7th, that same PSA 10 Young Guns card, in the range of $303 to $355 per card ladder. So significant movement leading up to the Olympics on the Juraj Slafkovsky Young Guns rookie card. Helps that he plays for Montreal. Obviously a huge hockey market, hobby market, big fan base there. PSA 9s, $70 to $80 as of today. So again, if you have those Young Guns rookie cards of Juraj Slafkovsky, you probably are feeling pretty good right about now, and you probably feel pretty good about the future of those cards as well. Also from Team Slovakia, he has rookies in all the Upper Deck products for this year. He was a first-round pick of the Blues a couple of years back. The 20-year-old center, Dalibor Dvorsky, a goal and an assist in the opening game of the Olympics that Slovakia upset over Finland. He won't turn 21 until June 15th, so a true 20-year-old in the NHL. 9 goals for St. Louis this year, but he had 21 goals last season as a 19-year-old in the American Hockey League. Again, he's in all the 25-26 products. There's another really good St. Louis Blues rookie in all the 25-26 products, Jimmy Snuggerud. If you're chasing his cards, I think there's certainly a high ceiling to those as well. But maybe Dvorsky's rookie card's a little bit overshadowed by Snuggerud at this point. You can pick up his Young Guns rookie card number 226 from Series 1 this year, $7 to $10 or so. If you're looking for something a little more rare right now, In Allure, he's in the doubloons set. Those were 2 per case, 1 per half case. $60 to $75 on that very tough to pull doubloon out of Upper Deck Allure. That's Dalibor Dvorsky, who is playing for Team Slovakia over at the Olympics and looks like a star in the making for the St. Louis Blues. And again, you can find his rookie cards in all the products from this year. Rasmus Dahlin, we've talked about him in regards to Buffalo's hot streak they've been on for the better part of the last couple of months. Got off to a nice start in the Olympics, had 3 points in the opening game of the Olympics, 3 assists. It's sometimes easy to forget that this guy is only 25 years old. The top pick in 2018, still just 25 years old. 48 points in 53 games at the Olympic break for Buffalo. He's the Sabres captain, and Buffalo, one of the hottest teams in the league, looking to snap out of a playoff drought. His 18-19 Upper Deck Young Guns, number 201, $20 to $30 raw, $90 to $100 in a PSA 10. If you believe in the Sabres, then, well, Rasmus Dahlin is going to be front and center for everything Buffalo is perhaps set to accomplish this year and everything they hope to accomplish in the years to come. Your Hobby 3 stars this week, somewhat Olympic-inspired. Juraj Slafkovsky, Dalibor Dvorsky, Rasmus Dahlin. Your Hobby 3 stars here on Nonsense on Ice. Folks, the other thing that I noticed from the Olympics, and again, I'm not going to get too much into the game by game and breaking down the tournament. We can talk about some of the early big individual performances, but oftentimes when you get into the Olympics, especially the Olympics where the NHL players are there and you see just the collective talent across all these matchups, you might also be introduced to a name or two. You might have a guy burst on the scene. You might have a guy open some eyes, turn some heads that you didn't know much about before. And in that first game Slovakia played, they got a standout goaltending performance, 38 saves from Samuel Halavai. He's the goaltender, one of the goaltenders for the Iowa Wild in the American Hockey League this season. No NHL experience, wasn't drafted. He's 24 years old. He's a big guy, 6'4", 240. That's what they have him listed at. So he is a big goaltender, but has always played well on the international stage by all accounts. Had that 38 save effort in Slovakia's tournament opening win over Finland. He's played most of this year, most of last year in the American Hockey League. As far as cards, he's got some overseas stuff from 22-23 and 23-24. He does, though, have Upper Deck CHL star rookie cards from back in the 1920 hobby year. So he's got Upper Deck CHL cards from 1920. He has also 1920 SP game used CHL edition cards. So if you're looking for some cards of Samuel Halavai, maybe you're a Wild fan and he's playing for Iowa and you're looking for something of Samuel Halavai, he does have some Upper Deck CHL cards from years gone by. So worth exploring there. But the Olympics always, you got a glimpse of the notebook, the spiral notebook. This thing is, it's been through some battles here. It actually just got replaced. This is a new one, but I filled up the last one. I'm probably the only one that can read the writing in here, but we do our best to keep everything on track and organized. Hobby 3 Stars Prospect Edition. The AHL Hobby 3 Stars, if you will. Kind of a Series 2 Young Guns preview to the preview that we're going to have a couple of weeks down the road. Probably do one of these a month, an AHL Hobby 3 Stars. We had one, remember, about a month ago. We highlighted Bradley Nadeau. We highlighted Connor Geekie, Sebastian Kosa, all having great seasons in the American Hockey League. Well, I've got 3 more names for you. Guys who are having nice seasons in the AHL. First, let's get to Matvei Gridin. He turns 20 March 1st. He's a 6'1" winger in the Calgary Flames organization. He's got 28 points in 34 games this season at the time of our recording for Calgary's AHL affiliate, the Wranglers. He's also played 13 games for the Flames, where he has 6 points. 28th overall pick back in 2024. He'll be in Upper Deck Series 2. Currently has an O-Pee-Chee rookie you can pick up for a couple of bucks. Those marquee rookie cards are nice, but Matvei Gridin, a guy to keep an eye on, first-round pick of the Flames a couple of years back. Dmitriy Simashev, next up on our AHL Hobby 3 Stars. Also a buck or two in the new O-Pee-Chee. He's got a marquee rookies there. He was the 6th overall pick of the Arizona Coyotes back in 2023, so a prospect for the Utah Mammoth. He's played 24 games for Utah this season. When he's been down in the American Hockey League, 23 points in 23 games. He was an AHL All-Star, just like Matvei Gridin was. Has a lot of parallels, a lot of numbered cards in the new O-Pee-Chee as well. And, as far as Matvei Gridin, 6'4" defenseman who is a potentially future do-it-all guy for the Utah Mammoth. So Dmitriy Simashev next up on our AHL Hobby 3 stars. Third up on our Hobby 3 stars, Isaac Howard, the 2025 Hobie Baker winner at Michigan State, late first-round pick of the Lightning back in 2022, now a part of the Edmonton Oilers organization. He's played 28 games for Edmonton at the time of the Olympic break this season, 5 points in those 28 games. But at the AHL level, really heating up as the season's gone along. He was Player of the Month in the AHL in December, 30 points in 22 games overall for Bakersfield. Doesn't turn 22 until the end of March, and he will have a Young Guns rookie card in Series 2 as well. He's also in O-Pee-Chee. You can pick up that Marquee Rookies card just released for a couple of bucks there. So those are your AHL Hobby 3 stars, Matvei Gridin, Dmitriy Simashev, and Isaac Howard. Value break spot, a spot that caught my eye in SP Game Used. If you're out looking for a break to jump into, Vancouver. And per Break Ninja, it's a website I use that kind of tells you how many cards each team has in different products overall. Kind of gives you an idea of if you're diving into a break, where can you just cast a big net and maybe have your best chance to get something. Well, Vancouver has a lot of cards. Per Break Ninja, I think they have the 11th most cards in the product, yet they're one of the probably cheapest teams, it looks like, in the breaks. Quinn Hughes is obviously still a Canuck in the product, so you have a superstar type of guy that you can chase in the product. There are also some good autographs in there from the Canucks. You've got a chance to get some very tough to pull Daniel and Henrik Sedin stuff. Then they have the 4 rookie cards on the checklist as well. So again, a chance to cast a big net, considering the price of some of the different teams. Vancouver, they were one of the cheaper buys if you're looking to dive into a break, and they had a good number of cards on the checklist. So if you're looking for a team with quantity, a place you can cast a big net, I liked Vancouver as a break spot in SP Game Used. Value vintage pick this week. I might take some heat for this one because it's not really a vintage card. Actually, a name that came up, I believe, in our conversation with Steve Mears just a little bit ago. Teemu Selanne, and this is connected to the Olympics. He only has one real rookie card, 91-92 Upper Deck, and that was in the Finland uniform at the Canada Cup. That card, you can pick it up pretty cheap, $3 to $5. PSA 10's around $50. He had NHL uniform cards come out in 92-93. Speaking of Fleer Ultra, we just mentioned Fleer Ultra, the new Fleer Ultra coming up here in less than a week at the time we're recording this. He has a really cool looking card. The photo on it's great. He's just ripping a slap shot. Teemu Selanne, 92-93 Fleer Ultra, number 444. Again, it's his second year of cards, but that was the first year he had cards in a Winnipeg Jets uniform. It's got the little rookie label coming off the Fleer Ultra logo in the top right corner of the card. It's an awesome photograph. Actually sells a little bit more in PSA 10 than his Upper Deck rookie card does. $3 raw, but the last PSA 10, actually, it looks like the last PSA 10 kind of right in line, about $45, $50 for a PSA 10 of that card as well. I think there were some outlier higher sales of it, but per card ladder. But if we're looking at just the general range, looks very similar. But those are some options if you're looking for a rookie card of Teemu Selanne, the Finnish Flash. And one of the all-time great point producers. I believe still has the record. Yep, he has the record, 43 points all-time in Olympic competition. So has the record there, the all-time leading point getter in men's Olympic ice hockey. So a good connection, good tie-in there as far as the Olympics ongoing and Teemu Selanne. We're trying something different here. So while we cruise along here on Nonsense on Ice, we get ready to rip some packs for our YouTube audience. We're going to try and give you a different perspective here. I'm going to rip some O-Pee-Chee, and we're going to try and give you the kind of the breaker cam, if you will, and the pack by pack of the rip. And for our listeners here, I'm going to do my best to give you a play-by-play. New O-Pee-Chee, 25-26, 50 marquee rookies in the set. Great set builders product, 500 card base set. Then you've got the Four Nations cards, the marquee rookies that are a little bit more short printed, but again, a great set builders product We're getting right into it. For our YouTube audience, you can see it. Damon Severson, Mike Matheson, Austin Watson, Ian Moore, our marquee rookie there. We'll put those off to the side. Oli Mata right here. This is the Oli Mata. A little different looking card there. Jonathan Marchessault. So we've got the O-Pee-Chee Premier. Believe these are 1 in 6 packs. Austin Matthews is our next one. Seth Jarvis, Joona Kapanen, Gabe Landeskog. So great player selection in O-Pee-Chee. The marquee rookies are always a great add-on as well. This is the first O-Pee-Chee that I've ripped right here with you. Semyon Varlamov, Ivan Barbashev, Sidney Crosby. We have the Blake Lizotte right here. That's a Four Nations face-off Crosby. That is in the back part of the set. Yep, that's after card 500, so that's a little bit more short printed there. Arbor Jacki, that is an O-Pee-Chee Premier. Getting a look at this one, really nice one. The O-Pee-Chee Premiers are cool. Takes me back. Jakub Dobeš, Rasmus Ristolainen, Nola Chari, Pavel Dorofeev, and Mackenzie Weegar. Getting a look at some of the odds here on the back of the pack. Always a big pack odds guy. Yep, the Four Nations face-off and marquee rookies, those are 1 per pack, so you're always going to get those. The retro variations was on the tip of my tongue. The name was slipping my mind, the Blake Lizotte we just got. Here is Jake DeBrusk, Scott Mayfield, Oli Mata. We've got something different coming up here. Blake Lizotte, Ethan Frank, Yakov Trenyan is our retro. We've got Kyle Connor. This is the playing cards. Kyle Connor. I don't have the odds specifically in front of me on that, but a nice card, the Kyle Connor playing cards insert. We'll go through about 5 or so packs here. There's Sidney Crosby right on the front. We've got a blue. We've got some kind of parallel coming up. Mason Lohrei. Joakim Kemmel is our marquee rookie. We have Andre Lee, our retro from the Kings. We have a blue. This is a parallel. Zach Hyman. Nice little color match there. Oilers. Got some Oilers blue there. Uvis Balinskis, Panther, playing for Team Latvia. Dylan Holloway, Josh Norris, Torrey Krug, and Leo Carlson. And now because I like all of you here, we'll do 2 more packs, and then we'll put the show to bed. Here is Tyler Kleven, Jordan Martinook, Ville Heinola, Mark Gatcomb, marquee rookie. I think we would have been chasing the other Islander is the rookie to get right now. Matthew Schaefer, Mark Gatcomb, we'll take that one. Marcus Foligno retro. We have a purple. I think this might be a numbered. Let's see here. Josh Brown. Let's see if this is a numbered one. Yep, 31/49, purple Josh Brown. One-time Florida Panther. Really nice guy. Great teammate, too. Tough customer. Josh Brown, numbered to 49, is our purple there. Michael Backlund, David Jiricek, J.J. Moser, Evgeny Malkin. 1 more pack for you. O-Pee-Chee's fun. You'll be able to find it soon at a retailer near you. Some of the blaster formats and things like that. Available at a hobby shop near you, wherever you buy your hockey cards. We've got another playing cards insert, I think, coming up here. Beck Malenstein, Jamie Alexiak, Cole Smith, Oli Mata, Four Nations, Z Booyam, retro. That's a nice rookie. It's one of the rookies we're going to be chasing in the product. Of course, he's a Vancouver Canuck now. Zeev Booyam. Robert Thomas on the 7 of Spades playing card. Nikita Kucherov, James Malatesta, Vasily Podkolzin, and Tyson Forster. So good little smattering of O-Pee-Chee right there. Always a fun product. Clean design, history in the hobby. Lots of inserts, lots of parallels, lots of variations. Great set builder product, and all the rookies are covered in it. So something for everybody in O-Pee-Chee. Hopefully this show had something for everybody. A loaded one for you here on Nonsense on Ice. As always, if you like what you saw, tell a friend. Wherever you find your podcast, there are a lot of great programs across the SCN Media Network too. Lots of great perspectives across the board. So check out all the other great shows that we have. But also, folks, the everything else that we've got, we hope you check it out. Want to say thanks to our producer, Rebecca. Want to say thanks to Steve Mears, the TV voice of the Blue Jackets, kind enough to stop by this week. And again, like, subscribe, comment, follow along, tell a friend. Again, wherever you find your podcast, you can find us And again, we hope you enjoyed the show once again this week. It's great hearing from all of you. Chime in on the socials at Doug Plagens, Twitter and Instagram. Always look forward to hearing from you there. Thanks again for being with us here on Nonsense on Ice. Folks, we will talk to you next time.